What's going on, fishing friends? Welcome to the Fishing Corner, brought to you by Old School Tackle Company. I am your host, Grant Elliott, and tonight we are going to go over to Ocean City and welcome two of the more well-known fishermen, anglers in that area, Scott Lenox and Big Bird. Let's go ahead and bring these two gentlemen in now. Hey, gentlemen, how you doing?
Hey.
What's up? How you doing, Grant?
I'm doing well. How are you, Big Bird?
Just fine, Scott. Grant.
Good to see you, Bird. Good to see you, brother.
Glad you're back in town.
Yeah, thanks, man. Looking forward to fishing with you here soon.
Yeah, I'm glad to be talking to both of you guys. I've had both of you guys on a show in the past, and it's always been a lot of fun. So I figure two great personalities like you guys, two guys that know a lot about fishing, particularly in Ocean City and other places. I thought we might be able to have a fun time. But let's talk a little bit, briefly about what the two of you guys do. Big Bird, let's start with you. You've been in Ocean City for a long time. You developed a lure, but tell us your story for those that are watching that don't know you.
Well, back before I had a boat and stuff, all the guys that worked on the highway crew with me, we used to meet down what they called Stinky Beach. It's where all the part of Martha's Landing and stuff. And a friend of mine, Roy Van Breckel, he came back from Florida with a riptide salt and pepper tail, but it was a freshwater lure then. And long story short, every 1 ounce hook I found had a real long shank hook in it. I short shanked the hook, and I kind of messed up when I made my first mold because it's just under 1 ounce, and it gave the bait a lot more swimming power, and the tail would wiggle a lot more. And by the grace of God, it worked. I mean, it's a real good, and I've caught. There's not a species around Ocean City that I barely call. I mean, I've gone after. Whenever I go fish, everybody's like, "What are you fishing for?" Whatever bites that hook. I don't care.
Right. Yeah, that's right.
So that sort of developed the Roy rig, right?
Oh yeah, that's why I named it after the guy Roy that brought me the tail.
And what sort of situations do you think the Roy rig is best suited for?
Moving water, when the water's moving, and at least 6 to 8 foot deep. I mean, you start getting 3 foot and there ain't no current, you're just going to hit the bottom.
Yeah.
And I mean, on the back of every package of my rig, it always says, remove the hook guard and bounce
That's not what it says.
Yeah, remove the hook condom. I used to have to take that off for a couple of the tackle stores. They wouldn't have that word on that.
Yeah,
package.
right. Yep.
And they were, and it just, and I fished it, and everybody kept bugging me. What are you catching it on? And I'll go, oh, Roy rig. It was all a joke, but it works. I mean, don't ask me why. I know people that hadn't caught nothing on it, and then I'll take them out in my boat. Now they swear by it. So most of the people always reel it in too fast. When you got a current under Route 50 bridge as strong as it is, you don't have to. Well, you were out the other week. I mean, we really sucked. We only got 2 rock fishing, but you got your first toe tog.
I did.
On a Roy rig.
Yeah,
I sure did. You were saying, it's best suited in a lot of current and 5 to 7 feet of water. I'm like, huh. So it was pretty much tailor made for that Route 50 bridge, right?
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah.
But I have caught from here to Key West, Florida, and back. I mean, I got friends down there that want them all the time, and everybody bugs me for them, but my health ain't been real good, and just my hands, it takes a little bit to make those. I mean, sit down and sharpen 1,000 hooks. That's why I got to put the condom on it, because I custom sharpen every hook. You sit down and sharpen 1,000 hooks, you're going a little cuckoo.
Yeah. And Scott, but before we go to Scott, Big Bird, can you tell us where the name came from?
The Roy rig,
Mm-hmm.
by a gentleman that I worked with. He was one of my paving foremen that loved to fish. And we'd all, after work, I mean, we'd have our rods stuck in the back of the truck, and we'd just go down to Stinky Beach and walk out on the rocks a little bit. Back in my younger days, you walked out on the old railroad bridge. And but I named it after everybody kept bothering me about what I was catching these fish on. And I just, the Roy rig. Yeah, it came from a buddy. The tail came from my buddy Roy, and I made the head for it. My sister used to get so mad at me for swimming that through her swimming pool. But, I wanted to see how it was reacting to the shape of the lure I made. And I've got 8 different ones that had different hooks, different size. This is the one that actually just came together right. It's been years in the making, not just, a lot of years. But I wanted to match the head to that tail. That's why I got companies around that want me to start using their tails. Well, I'll use any tail on that hook you want, but when it comes to the Roy rig, I always go back to that riptide, salt and pepper.
Yeah. I will say it's interesting that when you're out on the water, if you have the opportunity to fish with Big Bird, first of all, everyone in that Route 50, what's the other one? Route 90 bridge?
Route 90.
Yeah, Route 90 bridge. All, out to the jetty, everyone in that area, first of all, no Big Bird, one. And number 2, they're all fishing with a Roy rig. It's the strangest thing you'd ever seen.
Yep.
Boys on the 50 bridge, the people that don't realize that they come to Ocean City and hang out at nighttime, it's worth just to walk up there. There's about 8 of them. They know what they're doing up there.
Sure.
I hate fishing off. I'll go up there and hang out with them and cast a few times, but I hate fishing off that bridge. You got a 30-foot to 50-foot drop down, and you got to work it right. But there's some guys around here that really know how to fish it. And Sean Claret, my partner that fishes with me in the tournament, Sean, he's all the time up there.
Yeah. Well, Scott, you've got a lot going on. You and your wife, Kristen.
Yeah.
Tell us about Fish and OC and Hooked on OC. Actually, I don't know which one came first.
Yeah, so Hooked on OC came first. I moved down here in college back in the early 90s, and I worked. My first job I had down here in Ocean City was at Bahia Marina up on 22nd Street, working the dock, just scooping minnows and renting boats and that sort of thing. And then was there for 10 years, became a manager. And then when Sunset Marina was being built, a bunch of us saw an opportunity to go over there. I opened up Sunset Provisions when it first opened up. And then maybe, I don't know, we were 4 or 5 years into Sunset Provisions, and a TV show that was in the area called Hardcore Offshore was going away. And Dave Messick, who was producing that show, wanted to keep something going. So he came up with a new name. He was looking for somebody to host it for him. And at the time, I was doing a radio fishing report that was really popular on a local station. And he was a frequent customer of the store because he lived right around the corner. So he knowing my personality and being a buddy of mine early on, he asked if I wanted to host it with him and just kind of try it out, do some pilots and that sort of thing. And then next thing you know, it's our 20th season that's coming up this year. Yeah, pretty crazy. And about 10 years ago, I had left Sunset Marina, was working in the golf business because I'm also a golfer. So I was trying to get my PGA card and working at Ocean Pines Golf and Country Club. And long story short, a management company came in and was going to manage the property. And they fired the head pro, they fired the superintendent, all kinds of stuff was going on. So I didn't know if my job was secure at all. And I realized that the golf business was pretty volatile business. You can go with the change of a management company and be gone in a split second. So at the time I'm thinking, I was working for, long story short, I was working for Ocean Pines Golf and Country Club, and we went to a trade show up in New York. And I was sitting there flipping through the golf guide that Ocean City Golf Getaway does. And I was sitting, thinking, why doesn't somebody do this for the fishing community? It's just a one-time print magazine, kind of focuses on the golf courses and restaurants and entertainment and accommodations and stuff in the area. Just one time, not compete with any other publications. And I said to myself, maybe I can try and do this. What better person, knowing the area, been doing the show for quite a while now. So came home and asked the wife about it, and every other lame brain idea that I had, she had shot down, but this one she liked quite a bit. So we went and talked to our connections in the fishing community, like Sunset Marina. Yeah. Went to talk to some of our connections in the community, like Sunset Marina and the properties, and talked to the town of Ocean City. And I went and pitched it to the Town of Ocean City Tourism Commission, and they love the idea of somebody going to the trade shows and talking about fishing in Ocean City. And that's when Fishing OC was born. And coincidentally, we're coming into our 10th year this year, so it's pretty cool, man. I'm really, really lucky. I'm like Big Bird. I get to do what I want to do for a living, and I can play golf on the side when I feel like it. I make my own hours. I've got stuff that I've got obligations for, like covering all the tournaments when they're on and going to the different trade shows that are scheduled at certain times. But I'm pretty lucky, man. I've got the best of both worlds, being able to do what I love for a living and make some money at it. And then also we do deadly tackle. I think it's probably 5 or so years ago now. I was like Big Bird. Everybody's asking me why. What are you catching those flounder on? And at the time, it was the Deadly Double. Yep. We've made it into a bigger name, but at the time, it was the Deadly Double. Big Bird knew it back then. My good friend Dale Timmons had come up with it. He had a company called Acetique Tackle where he was selling it locally. He was selling it to me at Sunset Provisions, and we were retailing it. And it's just a really, really great flounder rig. Well, he stopped doing it because he was literally tying every single rig that they put out for sale. And I went to him one day and said, "Hey, if we can get these made overseas someplace, we check the quality of them. It's our designs. Would you be interested in doing this with me?" And he very humbly said, "Yeah, no, I don't want to do that, but go for it. If you want to take those designs and come turn it into something and start a tackle business." He gave me all the okay to use all the designs. Since then, I've come up with a couple of my own that we do all the time. And now we started with 3 SKUs the first year and 2 shops. And now we've got close to 30 SKUs, and we're in 35 shops from Virginia to New Jersey. So it's really cool, man.
Well, that's great stuff. And that's a great segue into my next question for both of you. Scott, since we started with Big Bird first last time, if it's kind of a 3-pronged question.
Yeah.
If someone wants to pick up a copy of Fish in OC, how do they do it in Ocean City, right?
Yep.
And if they don't live in Ocean City, because I'm looking through the list of guys, Rodney Green, for example, Outdoors in Maryland, Cambo Trout, Kevin Hogan, Brian Dolph, who's the owner of Old School Tackle Company, who's the sponsor of the show.
Yep.
These guys don't live in Ocean City, so that's the first part. If you live in Ocean City, if you don't live in Ocean City, same thing with Hooked on OC. If you live there, if you don't, how do you watch it? And then the Deadly Tackle, if you live in OC or you don't.
Yeah, one of the great things about both those things is you can get them either locally and you can get them most everywhere. I'll start with the tackle company. Basically, every tackle shop in Ocean City carries our stuff, from the flounder rigs to the thingamajig that we sell. It's similar to the Roy rig, to our new tog jigs that started about 1.5 years ago. Everybody's got them. Some shops have more stuff than others, but Atlantic Tackle, All Tackle, Bahia Marina, down at Buck's Place, Fenwick Tackle, they're all over the place in Ocean City and in the area. We also ship out of the area. So if anybody wants to buy something that, they live in New Jersey or New York, we ship quite a bit of stuff up there for tog fishermen, especially. Deadly-tackle.com is the website where they can get all that stuff. And then the magazine, I'll distribute the magazine starting in January. So I'm actually putting it together right now. Up until I got on here with you guys, I was sitting in front of my layout, putting ads in different places and that sort of thing right now. We'll print it next month. We'll have it in hand sometime in January. And then I'll go to the trade shows during the winter, where we start the Chesapeake Bay Boat Show. It's in Timonium, Maryland in January. We go from there to the Harrisburg Show. It's a really big one in Harrisburg, Pennsylvania in February. I'll see Big Bird at the Ocean City Boat Show in mid-February. Then we go to one up in New Jersey, in Edison, New Jersey. So you can come see us at these trade shows, stop by the booth. We'll have tackle for sale. We'll have our Back to Blue apparel for sale. And we'll also be distributing the magazine. And then once we come back to town, it's in town at probably 35 locations like Sunset Marina, the Fishing Center, Walmart, Wawa, all those high traffic locations where we distribute the rest of those copies during the season so folks can pick it up. But if you can't come to Ocean City and you want to just, flip through it, we've got an online version on our website at fishingoc.com. Right on the front page, it's a PDF version where you click into the magazine, and it's the exact same thing as the print version, where you can flip page by page and see all of our advertisers and read all the articles and stuff.
Beautiful. Good stuff. Thank you, Scott. Big Bird, I know that with the Roy rig, because I fished with it recently, kind of the OG OC Roy rig was just less than an ounce. There's now a few sizes, and
Yes.
can someone from OC that lives in OC get all the sizes at the tackle shops now, or is it still just the just less?
No. No, man.
I'm glad you said that.
Right, well, Scotty, I got an order right here. I'm just finishing up for Scotty of the Roy rigs. Like I said, I've just had a rough summer, but yeah. I'm getting back on the ball again. Got to get making. I'm Scotty. He sells my Roy rigs, and I've got like 3 or 4 other local places. And like I said, with Scotty's order and the crabs to go, John Whitmire, he keeps them there all the time at his place too. Between the two of them, they make my fingers bleed. I mean,
he can't. He's right, Grant. He can't keep up. Honestly, he's just, you know, and it's good because it's a commodity that people know they got to wait for sometimes. But because he's doing every single one personally, that's a really great part of it. So it's worth the wait sometimes. But I'm glad he said what he said because I'm out of stock right now. But it sounds like they're coming soon, so we'll be able to ship out of the area. I think we're the only place that ships them out of the area. Is that right, Bird?
Yes. As far as I know, you are the only ones that ship. But you were asking about the different weights. Now I've got my Roy rig, and then I had a 1/2 ounce made. And Jake Evans, a buddy of mine, he's got a company. They're changing their name, but he made a 3/8 and a 1/4 ounce that were. I don't really sponsor it. Now the 1/2 ounce I've been using, the red we usually pop because we're throwing so far into the rock pile. And just as slow as you can jig it out. Now, where we're doing this, I got a picture of it used to be the old trussels before the jetty was built. That's how they took all the rocks out there by the train and dropped it in. And a buddy of mine sent me a picture of it. It's just trussels. Well, instead of taking them down, they knocked them down in the water. Well, you can see them, and those fish gather in this one area. We call it the sandbar. And that's what I use. The 1/2 ounce one's the one I usually get the red drum, the trout, and then when the water just literally ebbs out, that's when I'll drop down and try the 1/4 ounce and the 3/8 ounce. But as soon as that water picks back up again, I've usually got 4 rods with me when each one of them was something a little bit different, you know, a little different weights that I'm trying.
Because when that current's moving
for a long time.
Yeah, when that current's moving, that 1/4 ounce or that 1/2 ounce, I mean, it's going to stay in the top 6 inches of the water. It's just going to.
Yeah.
I mean, if you haven't fished anywhere in that OC inlet region before, the current ripping out of there is something else. So,
like I say, you got to figure out how to use the current to your advantage by casting away upstream, or like when you're under the 50 bridge, Scotty and I do. You'll cast to one side of the bridge, and you'll actually watch it walk to the other side of the bridge. You know you're getting depth then. When you get depth, you're going to get a bump. So,
yeah. I wanted to remind everyone that we actually there's going to be 2 ways to win a prize from Old School Tackle Company tonight. The one way is by asking a question to either one of these gentlemen or both. Big Bird and Scott, it's your job when you hear a good question to either write it down or just make a mental note. For example, Shore Sharp is up here. He just made a comment. But if if you hear a good question from him, make a mental note. So when we get to the end, Big Bird will have his question of the night. Scott, you'll have yours. And then also we're going to do a trivia. And guys, Googling the answer is strongly discouraged. Can I keep you from doing it? No. But I tried to make the question. I mean, for these 2 guys, for Big Bird and Scott, this question is going to be laughably easy. I tried to make the question somewhat easy.
It's the simple questions that scare me.
Right. What is Big Bird's first name? No. So Googling. Actually, a lot of people might not know that. Everyone.
Yeah, I'd win that prize.
Yeah. But go ahead and start asking the questions now. We're going to talk a little bit, but I'll start, bringing in the questions here and there. But Big Bird, tell us about your year. Was there anything kind of different about this year? Anything?
My favorite time is the beginning of the summer and right now. because everything's cool. And when the summer starts, everything's going north. And when the winter time starts, they're all going south. I've still never figured, and Scotty's one of the best ones to even do it, is how all the flounder get back in the back part of the thoroughfare, because you always catch the first, and Scotty's done it more than once, caught the first flounder of the year, him or his wife, because his wife's real good.
Just once for each of us, yep.
And it's just, I've never figured it out. But middle of the summer, I got bad off sick. I had a tooth kind of explode on me, and the doctors all kept saying it was corona that kept them from pulling my teeth till September. So it was a rough summer for me. But I mean, the fishing flounder seemed a little off for me, but
Big Bird,
the
you talking
rockfish, the bluefish, we were banging them. I mean,
Hey Bird, are you talking Corona the virus or Corona the beer? Like you drank too much of it and they couldn't get in your mouth?
Yep, that's about it. No, I'm a tequila drinker. So.
Or both.
But no, it was a good summer, like I said. And once I got better, where I could go back out, we went right into them. I mean, you went out with me the other day, and I mean, yeah, it sucked. We only got 2 rockfish, and you caught that tog, and I went right back out the next day, and we got 8 right in a row, and 1 keeper. So
that seems to be my luck right now. I'm not out now.
It will change it.
Yeah, but that's a great day for some folks, Bird.
I know.
Oh, I say that all the time when I'm out fishing. Me and the guys that I fish with a lot will, have a day where we catch 25 rockfish, and we're just kind of like, eh.
Yeah.
And I'm like, for a lot of people,
if anybody ever gets the chance, it was the first time that Scott got to go out with me in my boat. And I knew where the 30-inch. It's an excellent episode. We were out there casting Roy rigs, and every other cast you were hooking into a 30-inch blue. It's a good episode. It's probably one of the best I ever did with Scott. I love doing the shows with him, but that one always comes to mind when I want to watch one of the old episodes. It's when him and I went out and got the bluefish, the rockfish. We caught it. We were having a ball.
That was fun.
And he had kind of a too light of a rod, and it was just squealing.
It was on the edge.
Before we go to Scott and his year, I think it's important to point out, I mean, you guys fish with each other quite a lot. There's, how many episodes of Hooked on OC is Big Bird in?
Man, I'd say half a dozen or so now, if not more, somewhere between 6 and 10, probably, right, Bird? Over the couple of years.
There's more than those.
Yeah, you might be right. They run together. But Grant, the only reason I say is because I get a little mixed up because we're coming up on 400 for the show.
Yeah.
But he's probably in just as many as any other individual boat or person is in. But he might be right. It might be 10 or 15 episodes, but it's always fun, man. And I look forward to fishing with him, whether we got the camera in the boat or not. And he's one of the best in the area for putting people on fish. And it's just, he's become a really, really good friend of mine over the years. And I look forward to his company just as much as I look forward to fishing with him.
We like picking on each other.
You got that right.
When Scotty puts his beard on, now that's a good one.
Oh, look.
He got beard and yellow suspenders he'll put on sometimes.
I got the costume ready to go.
There it is. Oh, goodness. 2 years ago, when Sean Flaherty and I won the Ocean City Inshore Classic, he got me the best anybody has ever done in my life, because when he rewarded us, he put on the yellow suspender. Nobody knew he had it on either. He cut the sleeves out of his shirt and put the yellow suspender. I tossed him my hat and put on. That's an episode of Hooked on OC. It's all on film. So.
Yeah, that was fun.
Oh, that was great.
That was fun. That's
good stuff. Scott, we keep pushing it back, but I got to ask, because we talked about it a little bit when Big Bird and I were fishing last week. But when you're filming an episode of Hooked on OC, and we're not going to say you were on Big Bird's boat, because other than the other day, Big Bird catches thousands of fish every time he goes out, without exception. But let's say you're fishing with me, right? You're on my whaler and we're in the Chesapeake, and you're welcome to come anytime you want.
Appreciate that.
But let's say we're filming and it's just one of those days where the fish just aren't eating. We've all been there where, you're looking at your graph and the fish are stacked up. and you put everything in front of them and they're not eating. What do you do in that situation?
Yeah, so you'll listen to this. We, over the course of the 20 years, have only had 2 shows where we weren't able to turn it into a television show because we just didn't get any content. One was offshore. I won't mention the boat, but it was years ago, and we were out doing some tuna fishing and turned into shark fishing, and we didn't get a bite. So that didn't turn into a TV show. And another one was the same thing. We were fishing offshore. But other than that, we've been lucky enough to get at least enough fishing content where we could do some cooking segment action or some, how-tos on rigging something or do a tour of a local shop and keep it interesting. But only twice out of the 400 have we not been able to produce a TV show. It really depends on what kind of fishing we're doing, because your example, if we're over with you on the Chesapeake Bay, a lot of times those fish only take 30 seconds to catch, right? So we got to catch way more of those to make it, enjoyable content for people. Whereas we did a show this past summer and we were on the Spring Mix 2. We only caught 1 fish, but it was a 200-pound big eye. So it all depends on what the content is and what's going on for how much we feel like we've got to get in the can. And it's usually somewhere between like 35 and 40 minutes of actual footage. And we just try and make that as interesting as possible when we do it so people don't turn channel.
Yeah, I was going to say, because you're kind of like, you're locked into it's a 30-minute show, right?
It's an hour-long show now.
It's an hour-long show.
It's an hour. It has been for about almost 12 years now, I think.
Okay, yeah, my recollection wasn't quite right, but so you got an hour to fill. When I don't do quite as many, on the water, as much on the water content. In fact, it's sort of my goal to do live on the water content. But if I was to do a YouTube video, I did them with charter captains all the time, and the captain would be kind of nervous that we weren't catching enough.
Yeah.
I'd be like, dude, we need 1 good catch.
Yep.
And then we can just make a 7-minute episode, promote the business, have that 1 good catch. That's all people want to see anyways.
Yep.
But if you've got an hour to fill, I mean,
well, we know we've got certain amount of content that's going to be there all the time. The introduction to the show, the close of the show, the commercial time, all that's going to be a consistent, length of time for the entire year. And it's usually around 17 to 20 minutes of that content. So we need to fill the rest with either segments or tutorials or fishing footage or something along those lines. So going into it, we know that we've got to fill that time space, and we'll pay close attention to how much actual fishing footage we've got. And a lot of times it'll be, yeah, man, we got an hour and 20 minutes. We're golden. This last show we shot, we were over on the Chesapeake Bay with CL Marshall, Tangier Sound Charters, our buddy. And I think we caught 20 rockfish. We had 8 keepers. We had another bunch of throwbacks, and we were real close to not having enough content because the timing of it was so fast. We would catch these fish in 30 seconds, 45 seconds. We had to kind of do a long close where we talked about how people get in touch with CL, the kind of season they can expect over on the Chesapeake Bay, and that sort of thing. So, and when you get CL talking, we went from having like 25 minutes of content to having like an hour and 25 minutes of content.
we love CL. He does an episode of this show every month. Yeah. And I love the guy because give him that mic and I can pretty much just sit here and shut up.
Yeah, CL's a great guy, and he's really good at what he does. He knows that bay like the back of his hand. And he's like us. He's like Big Bird and I. You don't necessarily have to go out there and catch fish to have a good time and have somebody want to come back and charter your boat again or come see your show again or buy your Roy rig again, because, you have people having a good time with what we do. And that's what it's all about.
Yeah, I was excited about having you 2 guys on because I knew it'd be a similar thing. I mean, you guys have great stories, a lot to talk about, and a lot of people want to hear you guys talk about your experiences. Scott, let's talk about sort of the last year for you. Yeah. Since we're at the end of 2023, how was your fishing year like? Did you have any species that you thought were a little bit hotter than others, and maybe some species that you had a down year on?
Yeah, we didn't see the big bluefish like we have. Big Bird probably agree with this. We had some, we had some fish come in, but not like we have in 2017 was an epic year. And since then we've had some good years. This year that was down a little bit. I think the water temperature warmed up real quickly in the spring. Flounder fishing was decent pretty much all year. Quick story. I think it was March 25th, 26th, something like that. and I was going fishing, and I'm telling myself, man, I'm gonna go try and catch the first flounder again. And I rode right by the thoroughfare, and I said, hell with it, I'm gonna go try and catch some tog, because that's probably a little bit more reliable. I had tried 2 or 3 times before that to catch the first flounder with no luck. And damn if a kid didn't catch it that afternoon, early in the afternoon, and rode by me while I was catching tog and told me that he had caught the first flounder. I was happy for him. And then I went up into the thoroughfare and got a really good bite that I ended up losing. But that's when flounder season started for me. And I had a pretty good flounder season this year. Nothing huge. My biggest fish was only like 22 and 22 and a half, something along those lines. But I had plenty of keepers to keep me busy all summer. And then I got to do some offshore shows too, which was really nice. We caught that 92-pound big eye tuna on spring mix. Caught some other tunas with some other guys. It was good. Caught some swordfish recently on the Rochambeau. That was a lot of fun. Some blue line tile fish. So, like I said at the beginning, man, I'm spoiled ass rotten.
Hey, there's nothing wrong with that. You're spoiled the right way.
Yeah.
The first flounder of the year, I've talked to Big Bird about this and also you. That seems to be, no pun intended, a bit of a rite of spring. I mean, that's a big deal in OC, right? When did that start, Big Bird? Do you remember?
I'm sorry?
When did that kind of first flounder of the year start?
Well, you're talking back in the good old boy days, who got the first fish? A lot of the tournaments around here and stuff, the money's okay. It's always good, but we're a ruthless bunch down here. If we ain't picking on you and, kidding back and forth. And I mean, we got boys from, one time I was on Scotty's show and I said, you could have walked across the bay with the Pennsylvania Navy. Well, the next year at the tournament, the guys from PA were wearing shirts going, representing the Pennsylvania Navy. And I'm like, it's all a bunch of kids, bragging rights. It's just needling everybody down here a little bit. And we all know it's all good and fun. So.
Yeah, I always know that me and somebody aren't going to be good fishing buddies if I start talking trash and they get quiet. I'm like, this ain't gonna work.
Yeah, no.
Oh,
yeah. That's why that's why Bird and I get along so well.
Yeah.
He trashes me and I think it's funny. No.
Yeah. Well, let's start bringing in some of these questions. There's quite there's a fair amount of them, and if we start getting to them now, we can be as long-winded as we want with our answers. I hate it when I wait too long and we get to where we have to do lightning round with people's questions.
Sure.
I hate it for the people that thought of good questions to give us. Let's see, Brian Dolph. No pressure that this guy's a sponsor of the show. Don't.
Oh, he's not just a sponsor of the show.
Right. I got a question for Scott. A day fishing the back bays of OC or a day fishing the Tangier Sound?
Oh,
that is a great question. I got to be honest. It depends on what I'm fishing for. If it's just pick one, I'd probably say Tangier Sound, man. It's beautiful. You don't see a lot of boats over there. It also would depend on the time of the year. Like if you're talking April, May in Ocean City, I'd take April, May in Ocean City. If you're talking July, August, I'm going Chesapeake Bay. If you're talking striped bass, speckled trout, Chesapeake Bay. If you're talking flounder, Ocean City. So it depends on when and what between those two choices. And if I had to pick one over the other, it's fishing OC, baby. It's fishing OC.
Big Bird, I'm guessing you're OC inlet guy, right?
No, not all the time. Scott and I have had the very good pleasure to go out with Danny Wynn. And CL has invited me too, but I haven't made it yet. Danny Wynn can put you on the trout, rock. I mean, and we're always, Scotty and I are both part of the Atlantic Coast Sportsmen's Association, and Scotty's one of our representatives down here. And to be able to go over there and catch keeper fish all the time. So, I mean, there's times where, I'd love going. I as long as there's a rod in my hand and around Ocean City, I'm always driving. Yeah, but if I go over there and somebody else is driving, I get the fish. Oh man, yeah. I mean, there's pluses in both places. The only reason I don't fish over there more is because every time I go out of one of their launches, I turn around and go, "Where the devil did I come out at?" I'm, it's you got to learn that bay just like you got to learn Ocean City. Ocean City, I think simpler. All you got to do is watch out. Once you learn your sandbars, you've got it pretty well made. But
Well,
I love both places.
Big Bird, this is going to happen. You and me are going to go down to the Pocomoke Sound, and we're going to fish with CL.
Okay.
Let's make that happen.
I got a hunk of lead here for CL I've had all summer long that's got his name on it. It's one of his relatives made it, everything. And I called him up about it. He goes, "Oh, I want that." I said, "Well, it's right here." Yeah, so
let's do it. Let's do it.
Yeah. I love CL. CL's a trip. He does way too much for the community. I mean, that man is a saint, no doubt, and knows how to fish.
I gotta get my book from him as well. Nikki and Bob from Hook Optics, and I want to take a second to brag about the quality of the glasses that Hook Optics puts out there. I've got a pair of prescription Hook Optics that honestly I can't leave the house without. Big Bird, I know you're a big fan as well.
Yeah.
But Nikki and Bob from Hook Optics ask, what's your favorite rig for ocean flounder, like the twin Rex?
Bird, you want to take that one?
Yeah, because I ain't going out there.
I'll be honest with you, man. There's two types of rigs I use, and one I accidentally found because I decided to use it out there, and it's a rig we sell. It's called the Deadly Squidly, and it's tied just like the Deadly Double, but it's got just a couple of plastic squids on it. I don't know if I've got any here with me or not. I don't have any in here. But basically, it's just a 2-hook top and bottom rig, high-low rig, long leads on it like the Deadly Double, but it's just got those plastic squids on it. And I've been on 3 fishing trips where we've been sea bass fishing. I've caught a flounder on every single trip on that rig, even most recently on the Morning Star with Captain Monty. It's either that one or your old bucktail with a teaser. If the current's moving slow enough, you can get away with like a 2, 3, 4 ounce bucktail, a Spro or something like that. And then part way up the leader, you do about a 6-inch dropper loop coming off of it. And then just either use a bare hook or a real light, like 1/8 ounce jig head with a bigger hook on it. And then put gulp or otter tails on there, maybe some strip baits or something. Those are the 2 types of rigs that I'm using on the local wrecks and reefs. They also have another one that's a sinker rig. It's called a chicken rig. We use them up in Massachusetts when I go with Kevin Twilley for those really, really big flounder. And they use something called a poison tails, which is basically just a little bucktail looking thing with a really big sickle hook on it. You have 2 of those coming off the leader about 4 to 6 inches, and then a sinker down on the bottom. And the most important thing for flounder fishing off of here is the twitch. You got to have that twitch down, man. You got to be moving it. If you're not moving it, you're not going to catch flounder.
Good stuff. Before we get back to the pictures, let's do a couple the questions. Excuse me. Let's go through a couple of the pictures that you guys sent me. One that I think Big Bird and I wanted to touch on. I'll just let the picture do the talking.
Eli.
That is a tail of a pretty good size striped bass, and those are not wet Rice Krispies on its tail.
Nope.
Those are sea lice. Big Bird, can you talk to us about that and what the significance of that is?
The reason I sent you that picture is that's when you're knowing that the fish are coming in fresh out of the ocean. And if you start seeing a lot of sea lice, you know they're schooling in. It tells you that the schoolies and the big ones are all coming in. Scott and I did an episode not long ago, I think last year or something. The sea lice were as big as like the size of your finger.
Yeah.
They were the biggest sea lice I ever seen, and they were good sized rockfish. We were keeping that. I mean, we were catching that day, but it was, to see the sea lice, you got the schoolies coming in. It's just a tail tie, it's a sign that the fish are on the move. And we keep hearing about down here is the big stripers up in Jersey. Well, sooner or later they're going to hit Delaware Inlet, and when they hit there, I'll know they're here. So,
yep.
But it's just a sign it's something you look for around here when you're fishing. You see a bunch of sea lice, get fishing.
Hey, Grant,
and watching your water temperature too.
Grant, if you can pop that photo up one more time, and the one on the tail, you can actually see the eyes if you look real close. You see those little black eyes.
Well, if you guys are at home, you can zoom in on it.
Yeah, the one closest to the tail.
Oh, you can see it. Yeah.
You can see his little black eyes toward the front.
Yep. Yeah. So if you guys are at home and you're trying to point it out, so it would be the head of it is closer to the head of the fish, but it's the sea lice all the way on the back, and on the front it's got two little black eyes. Wow. So that's a pretty good size one, huh, Scott?
No,
that's pretty small. Yeah.
Okay.
The ones Big Bird was referring to were probably 4 times that size.
Oh my goodness.
Yeah, they look like flat sand fleas. The ones we caught.
I've asked DNR and other guys before. I never did find out. I kind of scrape them off of them just to get the lice off of them, then throw them back in the water. Because I don't know if they're good for it. They can't be good for the fish, but
Right.
I think they're just hitchhiking down south or coming north when they do. So
that's what's going on. It's just a little parasite, like a little. A crustacean larvae just hanging along for the ride. Once the water gets too warm or they move into shallow water for a long period of time, they pop off.
Yeah, I always tell people it's the only time you're okay having your boat full of bugs.
Yeah, that's right.
Because when there's a lot of sea lice and there's a lot, you're catching a lot. I mean, you're be full of 50, 100 of those things, and it's they're
that's
kind of
going to be a problem. If they're infested with sea lice, that's a different story.
Yep.
Tell me about this trip, guys.
Yeah. I don't know if Bird knew I sent that one. We did that this spring, right, Bird?
Yep.
That was Bird's first trip, at least with us, with the trolling motor. I don't think we used the propulsion from the regular engine much at all that day. He was practicing with the new trolling motor, and we went down there to the Verrazano Bridge behind Astig Island to try it out. Caught some rockfish that we released. Caught those small bluefish that we kept that day. But that was our first trip this season. That was a blast.
Well, let's actually, speaking of the trolling motor, I think if my memory serves me correctly, this is a very relevant photo to that trolling motor.
Yeah, not so much actually.
That was last year.
Yeah, that's last year. I just wanted to show it because that is still to this day, that's our highest payout ever for the Ocean City Inshore Classic. Bird finally won that thing last year. He and Sean had first place rockfish, and I think third place was it second or third place? Set first and second place rockfish, and they won almost $9,000. That's what paid for the trolling motor.
Right. That's what I was saying.
Yeah.
That tournament, Sean, who we're going to have on this show very soon.
Okay.
If we can get him.
There you go. That nature boy. That's what they call him down here.
Woo!
Yeah. That is the fishing. He's me 30 years ago.
Yeah,
he's out on 50 Bridge. He kayaks over to Assateague. If he ain't kayaking over to Assateague and off the shoreline, he's in the kayak. And then he's with me all the time. He only reason he's with me all the time because he bugs the devil out of me. But that's
let's hope he doesn't watch the show because you guys look the same age.
But like I told you, one of these nights you want to do this show. If we do it with Nature Boy, I'll go up on the 50 Bridge and show you them guys up there fitting them boys up there are hot and their season's getting ready to crank up big time.
Check it out, Bird.
Oh, I see it in the background.
Speaking of the devils,
couple ugly guys behind
there's Bird right there. That's Sean right there, hooked up to a fish.
Yep.
Yeah. You guys are
different. There's only one section of the 50 Bridge that we can do that type of fishing with because it's deep enough. The rest of the whole length of the bridge is 6 to 8 foot, and then it drops up to 3 foot at the bayside. But up there by that draw, there's a 30-foot trough in there. If you know how to work it right, you can get. Well, Scott and I both had a lot of good times up there dredging. We call it dredging. So.
That's with the stretch.
Yep. Pulling the stretch through there, or we either I put a 3-ounce sinker inline up above my Roy rig or a thingamajig or whatever, and you just keep dropping it back. And when they're being real lethargic and wouldn't hit the stretch, you bounce. Like I say, you're probably going to lose it, but you're not losing a $20 stretch. You're just bouncing this on the bottom, across the bottom, and they'll pick it up down there sometimes.
Let's get to some more questions. Rodney from Missouri asked, excuse me, Big Bird, what brand of hooks do you use to make your rigs with?
I don't remember. I've had the same hook, get them from the same place so long. I just call them up and order. I don't know. Let's see. I make it into a grub head. I'm not. I don't remember. I'm sorry.
Oh, no worries.
What type of hook we use? Okay, there goes the president of the company with their hands in the air. I don't know.
Yeah. Well, you know what? Some things are better kept a secret.
Metal.
John Kronitsky has two questions for you, Bert. He says, "What leader do you use? Leader weight do you use with the standard Roy rig? Also, do you let it sink and then jig it, or do you just slowly reel it in?" I know the answers to these questions.
Yep.
Yes is the answer.
Yes.
On my Roy rigging rod, the rod that I mainly use the Roy rig on, I keep a 30-pound test on it because when you're fishing up by the 50 bridge, you've got to get them out from them pillars, or that fish is smart enough to go in between the pillars and it's going to cut you. The oysters, the mussels, everything all over that bridge will cut your line quick. But Power Pro line, 30-pound, and then since I'm here in Ocean City, the tackle stores, all tackle and Sunset and all of them, they always had these great big spools that they spooled the marlin reels with, High Tech and a few other. And what I do is I'll buy one of those cheap and I'll put it on a reel, and I use a 30-pound test piece of monofilament instead of leader line, and that's what I use for my leader.
Yeah, just about everyone that I talk to that doesn't, fish in like still and gin clear water always says that fluoro is a waste of money. You may as well just use mono in most situations. The second part of John's question was, do you let it sink and then jig it, or just slowly reel it in?
What I actually do is, well, like I say, Ocean City is full of current. If I'm out on the South Jetty, the North Jetty, you'll learn if you cast it towards it, you see which way it goes. So then I start working my way even farther out and farther out. And sometimes you're casting just as far to the left as you can, and you're watching it come and go across that inlet. You're trying to find the bottom without getting hooked up, literally. And Scotty and I, we've talked about it on this show before. It's a certain feeling. Oh, that's the bottom. Oh, no, bam, that's a hook.
Yep.
You got to feel that. You'll learn the difference with the Power Pro and the line. It's fishing with a cable and not a not with a monofilament. It's so much more sensitive. But you're trying to cast it upstream and let it come back by and get as close to the bottom as you can. And then I'm just as slow as I can turn it. As long as you keep the line straight and you can feel that tail, you'll actually feel the tail of the Roy rig moving under the water, and you're like, okay, I feel that. And if you feel that, when the fish hits it, you'll feel that hit.
I noticed that catching rockfish with a Roy rig at the Route 50 bridge, I don't know what it is, but compared to other rockfish that I catch, it feels like they whack that thing. Like
sometimes
it's
that's what I tell people. That's water temperature. Bam. When the water temperature gets colder, they don't hit as hard. It feels, you can swear that something is just literally sucking on that Roy rig. Set that hook. Whenever somebody's with me, I said, you feel anything a little bit different, set it. Because if it was the bottom, at least what you're doing is you're pulling it up off the bottom. And a lot of times that's when it's going to hit it, when you're popping it up. And I'm always telling people like you, when you're reeling in slow, give it a little twitch. It ain't got to be hard, just to make that thing look like it's wounded a little bit, and you'll get a reaction bite. It says, oh, that thing's wounded. Bam, and he'll hit it.
It's hard to believe, but we are already down to 10 minutes left in the show, which is crazy. Feels like we just started talking. But Sam with Outdoors in Maryland. What's that?
It's like that all the time with Bird and I.
Yeah. I would imagine this question's gonna incite some conversation, so I wanted to go ahead and get it in here while we still have some time. Sam with Outdoors in Maryland asked, is the slot on rockfish a good thing or a bad thing in Ocean City?
It depends on who's answering that question, if you ask me. For us, it's not great because we've got a slot that basically is about that big that our fish have to land in for us to be able to keep it. So that's not great for people that want to harvest rockfish down here. Right now, it is a good thing for the population, just because we have our catch and release mortality obviously is way lower than our harvest mortality. So the more rockfish that go back in the water, the more likely they are to live. I think they have an overall mortality rate of 9%. I think they go by for release mortality for striped bass in our area. So those fish going back is a good thing for the population right now because most scientists agree, and I think some of us are on the same page that rockfish aren't doing that great right now. So a slot limit, at least we're able to keep some. It's not great because of how small the slot is, but at least it's a good thing that some of those fish are going back.
At least they're letting us catch a few.
Exactly.
I mean,
yeah.
It ain't slowed me down catching. I mean, really, I've got it to where I can get in that slot quite a few times, but
yeah.
we
and there's
always
a slot.
say,
Slot on the Chesapeake Bay now too. It's just much larger. They're not allowed to keep fish over 31 inches over there anymore, right, Grant?
Correct. That's correct. Yeah. And there's that we don't get into politics a whole lot on this show.
Sure.
Try to just yeah. But I will say, David Sikorsky with CCA has put out some information that that slot is very likely to change and get a little tighter going forward on the bay.
Yeah.
Tanya Newmeyer, and probably Newmeyer, I don't want to butcher your name, says, can you fellas describe the dredging technique for rockfish? Looking to try it. Yeah, I got to do it with Big Bird a little bit this last week, so I think it's a great question. Lures to use, etc. Thanks much, but because I wouldn't call it technical, but there is some detail and some finesse, not finesse. It's not finesse at all. There's some detail and technique involved in this. I'm not sure which one of you guys wants to take it.
Well, I'm going to defer to my man down here, like Brady Bunch style, because anything I'll be talking about, I'll be talking about what I learned from him.
No, it's taking a stretch lure, 20, 25, somewhere like that, and using it as a freshwater jerk bait. And like I say, there's only one from where the bridge opens up. You don't even want to use it there because it's too shallow. But from where that is until where the arm comes down and blocks traffic, that's the only section you can use that in because it's there it is. There's Scotty's holding one up.
Yep.
And that's that. Like, that pink is a hot color. I've seen Scotty pull a few in with that.
Yep, they look like that.
With a you get outside the bridge and you're casting as far as you can under the bridge and then still letting some line out, and then you're pulling that thing in like a freshwater. You're jerking it, you're snatching. You are trying to make that $20 lure hit the bottom. I mean, and trust me, it can get expensive if you're trying.
Close,
I mean,
yeah, as close as you can to the bottom.
And you're pulling, you're snatching. When people see me pulling that in, they think I'm already hooked up.
Yeah,
because the rod's bent so hard, and I'm trying to drive it into bottom as hard as I can, and it's you got to practice it.
Yeah, that's important.
And know your depths of your water where you're going to use it, because
that's an important detail that you mentioned, because you're not using a medium light stick. That's a pretty heavy duty rod that you use. Can you maybe briefly tell us how you would describe that rod that you use for dredging?
Well, I'm not going to describe mine because I'm okay. Now, Nature Boy that fishes with me, he's got an 8-foot, one piece, heavy rod. And I like a 6.6. He wants his a little longer because, like I said, with the angle you get, you're driving it down more. They say Nature Boy can catch a fish in a bucket, but it takes me to get him there. So, and like I say, I'm always driving the boat. When I'm up there doing that, even when I had the trolling motor, I didn't use it much because a lot of times when I'm putting it out, I actually drive away from the bridge to put extra pressure on that rig to shove it down. So, I mean, it takes something. I would tell people, if you want to go up there and dredge, instead of using a stretch, use a thingamajig or a roy rig and a sinker, and just let it. Don't toss it out there. Just drop it down till you hit bottom, then let it drop back. The current, carry it back, and you'll get hits like that too. I mean, a lot of hits.
Good stuff.
But it just with them stretches, dragging them through there. I mean, I've seen Scotty when he got the first one. I saw Scotty get on his boat. He had his trolling motor out, and he was pulling. We even named the spot Scotty's hole.
I don't like that name too much.
We watched it. He hates that name, I know, but but and when you're up there doing it, you've always got to look out for the people on the bridge. You never know if there's one on one side or on the other side, and the lines get down, you get tangled up. And, you know, this time of year it's pretty good because the only people you got to worry about a lot are the toggers.
Right.
So if the guys are up there tog fishing, at least they drop it right in front of the pillars. We got one old man up there, we call him Jingles. He must have 10 rods, but he puts them right in front of the pillars so all of us can. But if you want to have fun with Jingles, carry a bell with you and ring it. And he'll run up and down the bridge like crazy. It's funny to watch, man.
Well, I didn't want to do it, but I think we might have to do some speed round on a few of these questions. And guys, if we don't get to every one of your questions, I sincerely apologize. And
it's all Grant's fault.
It's all my fault. You know. Let me make sure. I want to make sure everyone gets one question in. I don't think Shore Sharp has asked a question yet. So we're going to get a question in from him. And he says, what was your best catch this season so far?
Best catch? Big rockfish, red drum. Because I just started getting into the drum, so big rockfish or a big blue. I love blue, man. Blue is my favorite. If anybody asks whatever my favorite fish is, I like catching bluefish. But Scott,
hard fighting. Yeah. What about you?
Yeah, that 192-pound big eye I caught this summer on spring mix was pretty awesome.
That'll do it.
Yeah.
Stephen Howell asked a question. I don't believe he has. He says, "What are some tips for a first-time user using the thingamajig?"
So it's just like the Roy rig, except ours is on either side of the weight of the Roy rig. So the Roy rig's just under an ounce, between 3/4 and an ounce. We have a 1/2 ounce thingamajig and we have a 1 ounce thingamajig. So if we're, like Bird said earlier, if we're fishing a slower current, we're using the 1/2 ounce, getting away with that. But if we've got a stronger current moving, we're fishing the 1 ounce, and it's all about getting it as close to the bottom as you can. So when you're fishing down current, meaning the current is moving away from you, just chuck it as far away from you as you can, either toward the jetty or underneath the bridge, and then just slow retrieve it as slowly as you can, as close to the structure and as close to the bottom as you can get it, and then just wait for a bite. And every once in a while, like you said, give it a little twitch just because it looks like a wounded bait fish. And that's really it. They're kind of dummy proof, both those rigs. It's just a matter of getting a hang of feeling what's the bottom and what's a bite, whether you can hook the fish or not. But they're both really great rigs for catching rockfish, bluefish, flounder even.
Great answer. Cambo Trout has a question, and real quick, it's one of the kind of rules that I have is that I don't ever ask you guys to give away spots. So with this question, kind of think about more of a region type of thing, like areas. But I think he's asking about kayak anglers specific. So I'm gonna let it in because obviously he needs to know where to launch and then some general areas to target. But any areas you'd recommend for kayak anglers down there for tautog and flounder?
So look, I'll preface this by saying I appreciate what you said, Grant, but you're talking to two guys down here in Ocean City that we won't blow other people's spots up, but I'll give you spots I fish all day long, and so will Bird. So I'll go first. Tautog and flounder. If you're putting in with a kayak, if you're fishing early season, I would put in on the Isle of Wight at the Isle of Wight Park and paddle over to the thoroughfare and fish the thoroughfare. And if you're fishing late spring, kind of fall season, you can get away with fishing down at the Ocean City Inlet, put in at the public ramp in West Ocean City, right where Sean and those guys put in, paddle through the commercial harbor. You're going to have good luck for tautog right there at Martha's Landing on the end. And then on the South Jetty, throw a little hook down there and just anchor up. You want to be still as you possibly can for them, obviously. And then same thing in the fall for the flounder. You're going to want to fish. You want to fish slower moving water. So I'd go to the West Channel underneath the Route 50 bridge over by Hooper's for the flounder. And I'd also fish the Ocean City Inlet. If it's a calm day, you can go outside the inlet and fish in that corner, and there's loads of flounder there during the fall.
Excellent. Good stuff. Big Bird, do you want to add to that?
Scott's right. Whatever, everything he said on the Verrazano Bridge is, I mean, you could go up there to the Verrazano, especially for beginners, because the ramp's right next to the bridge. You're not going to do many tog and flounder.
Right.
You can flounder, you can do
Springtime.
flounder first part of the year, but there's rockfish and trout. That picture Scott sent was up by that Verrazano Bridge with them bluefish we had. So,
and we caught a bunch of rockfish that day too.
Yep, it's all on film.
Yep.
Watch Hooked on OC.
Guys, unfortunately, we're not going to be able to get to everyone's question. I'm going to do one last question, and then we're going to do question of the night. Bird and Scott, are you guys able to stay maybe 5 minutes longer?
Yeah, man, I'm good.
Okay. Bird, it's good for you?
Oh, yeah, man. All good here, bro.
We're going to get Bobby's question as the last question of the night. And, you know, Bird and Scott, if you guys have a moment to go into the comments of the show afterwards and answer some of these questions that people have asked, I'd greatly appreciate it.
Sure,
if I know some of the answers to some of them, I'll go in and do my best. But thank you guys, everyone, for asking the questions, and I do apologize for not being able to get to all of them. Bobby asked, Scott, how excited are you about the oyster stuffing tomorrow? And which Kristen's dishes are you most looking forward to? Love the cooking segment.
Yeah. I got a question for Bobby after I answer this. So I'm pretty excited, man. I got to be honest with you. The oyster stuffing, I put the recipe up on our Facebook page the other day, and we put that up there maybe, I don't know, 3 or 4 years ago now, just so people could see that recipe. It's been shared over 1,600 times on Facebook since we put it up there a couple years ago. And it's just because it's so delicious, man. It's one of the best bites of food I've ever had in my life. And it's absolutely the best stuffing I've ever had in my life. If you like oysters and you like stuffing, they're great separate, but you put them together in this dish, dude, they are unbelievably good. It's really, really moist. You don't need any gravy with it or anything. The oysters, as long as you clean them off, are usually pretty, plump and juicy. It's just really, really delicious. We've already got the ingredients to make another one this weekend because I know we're going to finish tomorrow's off at Thanksgiving. So yeah, that's probably the top thing I'm looking forward to. And then Kristen's making some desserts that I really can't wait to get into as well.
Good stuff. Oyster stuff. I mean, oysters are, I think my favorite food on earth.
Yeah, dude.
Oyster stuffing has got to be on my to-do list. Well, gentlemen, I hope you remember a great question from the evening, because it is that time. For those of you that get selected, have your question selected as a question of the night. We will, either I or Brian at Old School will be sending you a prize, and then we're going to jump into trivia. But Big Bird, did you have a question of the night that you remember?
The one with the monofilament about the lines.
Let me find that. All right, John Krenitsky, I think that's how you pronounce it. Great question, asking about how you let it sink and also the line.
Yep.
So I will, John, if you are still watching, go on to Tight Lines Facebook page and send me your information via message, and we'll get that prize out to you. Scott.
Yeah, I like the question from Tanya about the dredging.
Yeah, I thought that was a good question as well.
Yep.
So Tanya, if you're still on, do the same. Go to Tight Lines and send me a message, and we'll get you a prize. All right. So here's the deal with trivia. We got a 2-part question tonight, and then I'm going to list the questions. But guys at home, this happens every time. Don't answer the questions until the timer is up. So I'm going to put both questions up, because if you answer it, your answers don't count. So once that 15-second timer is up, then as soon as the first answer that's correct that comes in will win the prize. Okay? So don't answer until the 15-second timer is up. And the 15-second timer is going to be on the screen, so you can't miss it. Pretty much, Big Bird, you got it. All right, so here we go. Here's the first question. Don't answer until the timer's over. In case you missed it, don't answer until the timer is over. All right. So, question number 1. Fill in the blank. Ocean City is the blank capital of the world. Wait until the timer's over to answer. Question number 2. This is a little bit harder. What year was the first White Marlin Open in Ocean City, Maryland? All right, here we go. Hang on. Don't do it. All right, timer is up. And gosh, you know what? Bobby he got an answer in. So let's see. Bobby, as for the first one, the White Marlin capital of the world.
You are correct, sir. Yes.
And for the second one, 1973, unfortunately.
Wrong.
Wrong.
Not.
Stephen, the same for you. You know, the first one, you're right. The second one,
Wrong.
and not so much. Okay. Stephen Howell, what's the answer to the first part of the question? Because for that,
You are correct, sir. Yes.
all right, so we are going to do, here's what we're going to do. Let's see, all right, Bobby, you got the White Marlin in first. Stephen Howell, you got in the 1974 first.
Yep.
So you're each going to get a prize.
There you go.
Hey.
So we got 4 winners tonight. We got Stephen Howell, Bobby, Tanya, and then the last one was, gosh, I got to go through and remember this. The last one, it was a question about the line, and I can't go back far enough in the comments. But you know what? You're going to get a prize. White Marlin 1974. John, you're absolutely right. You're just a couple seconds late. Scott, Big Bird, any final comments?
Tight lines, brother. That's the best fishing you're going to find for a while in Ocean City. If you get a nice day, it's feast or famine. I mean, you're going to go out there like Grant and I did the other day and only get a couple and a tog, but then you can go out there on another day and there'll be a school sitting there and you're just going to wear yourself out. So,
Yep. Grant, with Thanksgiving tomorrow, I just want to say it's all about gratitude, man. Thanks for having both of us on here tonight. Big Bird, thank you for all the tips and education you've given me over the years, and thanks for your friendship. I appreciate it very much. And anybody watching, thank you guys for the support you give Big Bird and myself with our businesses and everything that we do down here in Ocean City. We greatly appreciate it. I hope everybody has a great Thanksgiving tomorrow.
Well, you guys have an awesome fishery down there, guys. Head down to Ocean City, get you some Roy rigs, go fish in that inlet. You're gonna see Big Bird, and while you're there, check out Fishing OC and Hooked on OC. They've really got a great thing going.
You learn a lot on Hooked on OC. We don't hide nothing on that show.
Nope.
We tell you where we're at, what we're doing, how we're doing it. I mean, if you want to learn how, the lady that want to learn how to dredge, we got episodes.
Yep.
I've had Scotty pulling in big rockfish. I mean, keepers. So
we're 20 years into it. We got 20 more coming. How's that?
Amen, brother.
And just from a personal note, guys, I'm really thankful for everyone that stuck with me and came along with me on this new project. So thank you all at home. Have a wonderful Thanksgiving. Spend that quality time with your family. But you got a long weekend, so you can get out there and get some lines tight.
I got 40 people coming to my house.
Sunday looks good, Bird.
Yeah, man.
I might need to make it down there again real soon. But
Come down, man. I got 40 people going to be here tomorrow.
oh, amazing.
Oh, yeah.
Everyone
Right
have a
down
great
my alley.
Thanksgiving, and we will see you guys. I'm taking next week off, but we'll be right back with Tom Weaver and Walleye Pete early in December. So thank you so much for watching. See you next time. Tight lines.
See you guys. Peace.